Now, you see, the thing about jazz is that it is ultra-modern. Now, jazz is an art form, mirrors the best of what American civilization is. First of all, it embodies America's greatest ideals. It is democratic. It promotes innovation. It values personal liberty. And it moves to the clockwork rhythms of the machine age world. Now, if you look at this painting, it is both, he has managed to combine both the ancient and the modern. The ancient African mythology, which he constantly works from, and works it into a modern thing. Now, this particular painting here is an 18-foot canvas, a painting on canvas. It's called Pyramid in Space. So here you have the ancient Egyptian symbolism of the pyramids set in the most ultra-modern setting imaginable, the world of outer space. And that's characteristic of what Dr. Ademola's aesthetic is, even though there are many very complex works, and we will look at some in a moment. Well, because of the fact that these paintings are in glass, I can't show you a lot of the things I would like to show you. For instance, Dr. Ademola's series on dance, particularly his drawings in honor of the great dancer, prima donna, Judith Jamison, who is now the artistic director of the famous Alvin Ailey dance theater. But in any case, the work we have here, as is the case where you can see, for instance, when you look at the work of Salvador Dali or Picasso, even though it is non-representational, abstract, if you will, you can see in its complexity, you can see human intelligence at work. And for me, whenever we're talking about art, I want to see evidence of human intelligence, because that's why we call art the humanities, because it is, a reflection, of the best of human ingenuity and human imagination. Now, in this particular work here, what we're looking at is a woodcut, which was colored by hand. And just absolutely fabulous by any stretch of the imagination to think that this began as a carving in a wood plate. Dr. Ademola is one of the most brilliant of the woodcut artists. His woodcuts are just absolutely fabulous, and here is an example of it. Now, this complex design you see here, as I say, began as a woodcut, and then it is hand-painted. Each of these complex forms here are hand-painted. It is hand-painted. Each of these complex forms here are hand-painted. All of these various figures we see here. So this, if anyone has any doubt when they see his more simple expressions, such as the dance paintings, which are done with pencil and ink, and they are lines. They are suggestions of what a dance is. They are one has to do what one had to do when we listened to radio dramas, for instance. One had to use one's imagination. You had to think. Here, even if you have no idea what is happening, the color and the complexity of the design is such that it is very nearly overwhelming. We have the good fortune to be joined by the artist himself. This is Dr. Ademola, my good friend here. You understand what I'm saying? He thinks he's a tough guy. He used to be a boxer. As soon as we get through doing this, because he harassed me about being here, and then he showed up late. So as soon as we get through doing this, I'm going to give him some of this and some of that, right?
Brother,
he thinks he's tough. He can't hit me with a handful of rice. Anyway, you stick to art. Tell us the name of this. This is as I pointed out, the fact that the jazz musician created, I think, the purest expression of Neo-African art. And they did it, as I say, through a process of onomatopoeia rather than philosophical speculation, intellectual assertion. They simply, out of their imagination and out of their experience and out of the ingredients of Afro-American and European music, they created this great art that has captured the entire world. And it is a Neo-African art. This is surely as the son montuno of Cuba, or the samba of Brazil, or the calypso of Trinidad. It's all Neo-African art forms created by African people living in the diaspora who basically grew up in a European society and with Western European values. So what we have here in this painting is a visual expression, I think, of jazz, and it was inspired by jazz. And in fact, it was named after a performance by two great jazz artists, Pharoah Sanders and the late Leon Thomas, who had two completely original voices in music. Leon, of course, was the singer. So what is the name of this, and how did you come to it?
Professor, it's called Musicians Making the Harvest Grow. I named it because I was so inspired listening to many of Pharoah Sanders and Leon Thomas's collaborations, where I could actually envision and feel plants growing. And philosophically, to me, being a former bassist myself, musicians of all of the art forms, perhaps not only they're the most visible and the most notable in terms of African American culture, the whole idea of music, but that they actually, to me, provided the seeds for the harvest that we're experiencing today, which is a whole renaissance in black culture.
Yeah, they inspired all. In other words, they inspired all the arts. This is the
absolutely.
That the writers certainly were inspired by musicians.
I started out as a musician.
Yeah,
I started out as a singer.
As did I.
Yeah.
Because I'm still a musician. I still play conga. In fact, I'm putting a band together now to do a concert in honor of the late great Manuel Santa Maria.
Well, we need to talk about some collaboration there. Anyway, so this is Musician Making the Harvest Grow. As the professor said, it began as a woodcut, which is a process where you carve out of wood and then you make it. You put this plate that you carve out of wood under thousands of pounds of pressure through a press that then makes an impression on paper. The unique thing about
how do you do it? You have a machine that does that?
Well, it's a hand press. One of the old, going back centuries, that you roll the image through these rollers, which put thousands of.
But now you actually just take a piece of wood. Is there any particular kind? Now some of these wood cuts, you put ink in the wood cut, right?
Well, you ink the surface. You ink the surface. You ink it. You have to ink it to make the impression on the paper.
And that's true.
That's all the black in it. All the black was printed on the paper. Then I went in after it dried, and then hand painted each one of these areas with colored dyes.
I don't even know how you could imagine something like this. You know what I mean? It's just fantastic. I mean, I see. You know, the more I look at it, the more I see.
Yeah.
Because in the beginning, it just seemed like a bunch of abstract images, but now I see that they're actually masked in here, and they're figures in here.
Yes.
What a magnificent work, from the geometric figures to the colors, and then you did this. You know, the way using the method that you did is absolutely. I think it's amazing. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So the whole idea was to create the same sensation that you experience it now. When you look at it, you're impressed by just the color and form, and then as you look more and more into it, you begin to see all these things. And it's the same way with music.
Now let me ask you this.
Yeah.
You've been an artist now, as I said, for almost 50 years, 45 years. You dated from when you saw your first painting.
Yes.
You were one of the founders of the We Will See Academy, right?
Yes.
Tell us something about the We Will See Academy, because when I first began to come up to New York, to Harlem, around 1962, and I was around when the Black Arts Movement first began. We all were, and too bad you can't see the cameraman, because Kwame Brathwaite, who just told me he has 250,000 negatives.
Quarter of a million negatives.
This is Kwame Brathwaite is our fantasy, our generation's James Van.